Respected Thai, dear brothers and sisters, dear friends. Today we have this session of questions and answers. I'd like for everyone to sit beautifully, including the children and adults, and enjoy the three sounds of the bell. Coming back to our in-breath and out-breath, enjoying the presence of your friends, your parents, our brothers and sisters, and other adults. Good morning, dear Sangha. Today we have these sessions of questions and answers. Up here is the Q&A panel. I'd like to invite each one of us to introduce ourselves to the Sangha. Begin with Thầy Pháp Nhã.
Nam mô Đức Bổn Sư Bụt Thích Ca Mâu Ni.
Dear respected teacher, dear brothers and sisters, and dear community, I'm Pháp Nhã, and currently I live and practice at Magnolia Grove Monastery.
Dear Sangha, my name is Sister Precepts, Sư Cô Giới Nghiêm. I come from Blue Cliff Monastery in New York, and I love to be with the children, with the teens and adults, and I enjoy this retreat very much. Thank you.
Dear Thai, dear brothers and sisters, and dear friends, my name is Leslie Rawls, and I live and practice in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Dear respected Thai, dear Sangha, I'm Brother Freedom, and I come from my mother. I say that every time, because it's true, and I reside and practice in Deer Park Monastery in Southern California. Thank you.
Thank you, dear brothers and sisters. Now we'd like to open for the children to come up. One of you, one of the brave one, to come up here to sit in this chair and ask a question from your heart. A very serious question. No, just kidding. A question that you have in your heart all this time and you've been wanting to ask the monastics or our Dharma teacher lay friend. Yes, come up here. We will sit beautifully, enjoy one sound, the bell, and then you can ask your question. Yeah? Thank you.
What does it feel like meditating every single day? What does it feel like meditating every single day?
Thank you for your question. When you meditate each day, it helps you start the day calm and peaceful, and then end the day the same way. And for me, it's like filling up the car with gas or charging it electrically, that it gives me the energy to go through the day the best way I can.
Yes, come.
My question is, if there was a fire, would the monastics run or walk? Because I thought monastics only walk.
That's a very easy question. I would just run mindfully.
Thank you. What does it feel like being a monk? What does it feel like being a monk?
Hi there. I try to answer your question. What is your name?
Anthony.
Andrew?
Anthony.
Anthony. I'm Brother Freedom. I am a monk. And I wonder, you said, like, what is it like to be a monk? If you maybe, maybe you want also to be a monk? Or at least you're considering to be a monk? Yeah? And of course, then it's a legitimate question, how is it like before, right? Before you get yourself into trouble, you want to know how is it like? Is it okay or? And I can tell you it's quite okay. We have to get up very early, that's the down. But we live together, that's a pro. And we're drinking tea together, and we play soccer and volleyball together. And there's a lot of brotherhood. You know what brotherhood is? Like friendship, but even like more, like really being connected and caring for each other like siblings. That's what we call siblings. But we also heard like the getting up in the morning early is one thing, but then when we sit together, like Leslie said, like when we sit in the morning peacefully, we start the day very easy, and then we are ready for whatever comes. And I feel like we have a lot of space in our hearts for everyone, for other people, for animals, for nature, And to me, as being a monk is to live my life as a real human being. You know, I don't need to earn so much money to buy a car. I can live free, and I know the community and my brothers and sisters are there, and everybody does a little, like in a family, somebody's cooking, somebody's cleaning, and we're doing it together. So I don't have too many worries. I'm doing my part, and I'm caring for my brothers and my sisters, and they care for me, and I can live pretty peaceful and carefree and easy. I invite you, maybe you want to come next year instead of summer camp, you come to us for the summer and live with us for a few weeks. What do you think? And then you can make your decision. And you don't have to become a monk right away. You can wait until you grow a beard or so, you know? Is that a deal? Okay. And until then, you just like meditate, you know, and walk peacefully and follow your breathing and take care of your feelings and your emotions. And when you get angry at mom or dad, stop and think like, what would a monk do in this moment? Would he yell back, or would he just say, it's okay, Mom, you're right, and I'm at peace? That's a good one. Okay? Thank you.
Is mindfulness
That's a tough one. Wow, the children ask really good questions. Mindfulness for me is to be present, to be present. When you're asking the question, you can be present for yourself and for other people. Or when you play with your stuffed animal, your friend, you can be present for them, yeah, for him, for her. And when you eat a piece of apple or a piece of carrot or a piece of cookie, you can be fully present for the cookie or the carrot and fully taste the carrot and the cookie, and you feel gratitude for what is offered to you from your mom, your dad, your sibling. Yeah? Is that answering your question? And when you walk, you can also be mindful. When you run, you can be mindful, huh? So you don't bump into each other or fall down. Is that good? Yeah, thank you.
Hello, everybody.
Oh, her friend is saying hello to everybody. Thank you for your question. They're very curious. So let us enjoy one sound the bell before we ask the next question.
Why do monks and nuns only wear brown?
Tại vì quý thầy, quý sư cô làm biển dắt áo quần. Vì cái màu này là
Maybe this color, because this color it looks the same. And if we don't change our robe or wash our clothes in 3 or 2 weeks, nobody knows. Who's asked the question? I think it's just teasing. It has another meaning.
Why do monks shave their head bald?
We're afraid that the children will be disappointed in our answer. Dear Sangha, I think the first thing is to save us from buying too much shampoo. And then the next thing is, summer days like this, it's cooler, you don't have to take care of your hair. But really, it's to express our simplicity, and also to express how we can let go. We can remind ourselves as monks and nuns to let go of things that make us unhappy, things that cause our heart to be heavy. So we let go. So we touch our head in the morning. We remember that we can practice letting go. And I think another answer is some of our sisters would say that to avoid attraction. So I don't know if that answers your question. Thank you. So I think we have enough questions for the children. Thank you so much for asking them. So now you can stand up at the small sound the bell and join your palms to the panelists and also to the adults. Turn around, bow to them, but hear the bell first. Bow to us, bow to the altar, bow to the audience, and then you can leave for your next activity. Thank you. While the children are leaving, we like to invite the teens. I heard there are 6 or 7 of you. If you can come up here and ask your question. Are there any teens in this hall? Can you raise your hand? The teens have separate activity. So the adults, you're welcome to come up here, and one can sit on the chair and the other one can wait. So we invite some friends who like to ask a question to come up, and we listen to one sound the bell before we ask the question. And please ask the question from your heart, from your soul, questions that are relating to your suffering, your happiness, your daily life, and don't ask us theoretical questions, because those questions you can ask Mr. Google. So please come up. Any brave souls?
There, is that better? I was here in May, and it was incredibly transformative in every way. Every way. I couldn't even think of a way that it wasn't transformative. And I left here, and I turned on my radio in my car. And there had been 5 mass shootings while I was here. And it was just overwhelming leaving here. And I could use some help integrating after I leave here because I feel so different. But the world is the same. So I could use some help with that. I was here in May too, Julie, and the world was the same while we were here. And during the time we're here, we're making a choice to focus on other things and taking care of ourselves so that when we go back out, we can respond to the other things that shake us so and need our attention. I also think that this is one reason we need a Sangha, because there's so much suffering that I cannot possibly hold it by myself. I don't know anyone who can. And also, I can't respond by myself in the same way I can with the energy of the Sangha. So coming here is part of taking care of ourselves and taking care of our Sangha and taking care of the world. So when we go back out, the first part that I think is most important is to have a Sangha. And also to recognize when and how we can water the same seeds in us that we strengthen when we're here, when we're in the community, when we're in the world. And sometimes that means turning the radio off and going for a walk. And of course, not while you're driving. But recognizing when the cup of suffering in us is full, because I can't help other people if my suffering is overflowing as well. I know this is Q&A. I don't have any answers. I have responses. And I don't think there's one response for me in going into the world and how I integrate the practice and still be present with suffering without being overwhelmed by it. But I do know that taking care of myself and being supported by the Sangha is one of the most precious things to me in that kind of a response.
Kính bạch sư ông, kính thưa quý sư cô và kính
Respected teachers, dear community, my Dharma name is Wonderful, Wholesome of the Heart, Wholesome of the Heart. And this is my 4th time coming to Magnolia Grove. And in my first retreat, I have a question. When I came to a retreat or the monastery, I feel very peaceful and light. But when I return to my work, I get carried away by the stream of life, the flow of life. So how can we maintain a peaceful state of mind or the lightness in my daily life or at work? When during my daily life I be able to recognize that I get carried away, but how can I be able to maintain my practice in my daily life out there in society? Dear Thầy, dear community, dear sister, if you want to maintain a state of mind that is wholesome and peaceful when you come to the monastery, we can learn to practice letting go. Of course, when we come to a wholesome environment, usually we are peaceful and open, and we'll be able to receive a lot of good energy in the monastery or temple. And you wonder why there's in the world that have a place like this, an environment like this, that you can touch that peace. But when you return to the world, you don't see that condition and you feel that you get carried away. So it's a matter of you make the right choices. You can change or organize your way of life, that you can see the benefit when you come to an environment or practice environment that nourish you. Maybe because you're unable to let go of something, that you make time to go to a good environment where you can come and receive the nourishment and practice. For example, like in yesterday Dharma talk, when you practice but you don't touch joy, that means you haven't really practiced. So when you understand that when you come to an environment or change your environment and you change your way or approach of practice, where you can touch joy and peace. For example, you surround with friends that create conditions that carry you away, then you might have limit those, and you go find friends, Dharma friends that can help you to water good seeds, seed of peace and joy, so you can be more peaceful, rather than hang out with the friends that might water, seeds that be burden for yourself. So, beside coming to a monastery or a temple, you can come to a practice sangha. It's an environment where you can also be able to receive or connect with those good energy. If not, life will be overwhelming for you, suffocated.
Dear Sangha, yes, if we can come up, and the next person who like to ask a question can also sit nearby. That way we don't, we can save some time. Thank you.
Dear brothers, sisters, friends, family. One thing I love about the Plum Village tradition is that we're meant to practice everything that we study and learn. We're meant to put it into application. And when we when I was listening to you all chant the May the Day Be Well, there's a line that says, may we all fulfill the bodhisattva stages with ease. And being the type of person I am that really loves pursuing knowledge, I looked up, oh, there's 10 levels and they all have stages. And so I was wondering, how much should we be intentionally focusing on pursuing that? Is there a way to practice ascending into bodhisattvahood?
Dear Thầy, dear Sangha, dear friend, we asked not to ask theoretical question, but I like to just answer from my own practice. This morning, if you have attended the 14 mindfulness trainings transmission, that is the transmission for those who vow to go on the Bodhisattva path. So the 14 trainings are concrete ways or practices that will help these friends to go forward on their Bodhisattva path. And that includes many aspects of the practice. One thing that come up is about the bodhisattva is the capacity to listen deeply and to help all beings with skillful ways and mindful practice, mindful speech. So I think that's the most concrete things we can do in our daily life. You probably hear the beginning new practice that Sister Joy have shared on mindful speech and deep listening. So in our daily life, if we practice the 5 mindfulness trainings well, then after a few years, we can make a vow to, we can join a Sangha and we can find a mentor and make a vow to take the 14 mindfulness trainings. But the 14 mindfulness trainings is based from the 5 mindfulness trainings. So if you practice, for instance, the first training of protecting life and not killing, then you can also practice that mindfulness trainings in the 14th mindfulness training. But the 14th mindfulness training for me is an expansion of that, and it's go deeper. Like we're not killing, but we also try to avoid being narrow-minded and be dogmatic. So so if we practice the 5 mindfulness trainings deeply, each one, then we can also practice the Bodhisattva path. And I will not go into the details about the 10 stages because that will take a lot of time. That would be one Dhamma talk. So thank you for your question. I don't know if anyone else. Thank you. So we will read one question from the writing of our friends.
So this is a written question that reached us here. Dear brothers and sisters, thank you for giving us an opportunity to ask this question. The things that been happen over and over, for some OI members, that I can't understand. They have eagle wings high, have power over others. They forgot to practice the 14 mindfulness training in themselves before they try to control the others by very unskillful means. That's the question. Reading these words, the seeds, my seeds of compassion in my heart are watered because I feel like pain. This person is suffering. May I say you and address you who wrote this. You are suffering, you are in pain. So first I feel with you, and I investigate and I wonder how you feel, and trying to empathize with you, I feel disappointed by certain members of the order of interbeing. I feel disconnected. I feel hurt. So that's the first thing I believe we can do for ourselves, to identify, recognize, and name what is going on in us, so that it cannot really just wash over us and carry us away, and we follow anger, blame, judgment blindly. But to first have a look inside and say, what is this situation, this connection I'm trying to establish doing with me? I have different angles on this. One angle is I have similar experiences. We're all human beings, right? I remember many years ago I was in Plum Village in France. I was, I think, a lay friend or an aspirant or a young novice. I don't remember that, but the situation, I was in the bookshop. And the bookshop was full of people purchasing different things, and one person was looking at the brown robes and at the brown jackets for the OI members. Just looking at the jacket. Then another person approached, obviously an OI person, an order of interbeing, and said, oh, sorry, you cannot buy that. That's only for OI members. And I was like, who are you? Like, you know, you're so unkind. You could have said it so differently. And that's where I had exactly this notion of who this person thinks she is. You know, is she something better than the other person? Maybe the other person wasn't even aware. Maybe it's her first time in the bookshop in Plum Village, and she's just looking at it and getting like this arrogant comment. So that was my experience with that. And I had to practice with it, because I also had the perception, if this other person, this commenting other person, is a member of the order of interbeing on the path of a bodhisattva, they should do better. You know? And then I thought, who am I? You know? First I thought, who is she? Like, but who am I to judge her who judges her? You know? And I don't know who I am. You know? I'm not someone, for sure, who is alleged to blame others for blaming others. I can take care of myself and looking where this blame is coming from. In my case, it was just like my expectation of kindness. In this case here, it is like a personal connection, and not a peer-to-peer connection as I see. As I said, like, OI members are human beings too. They are on the path. 2 years ago, some Deer Park brothers, we went on, it was right after the COVID times, the lockdowns, and this new Delta variant where nobody was allowed in the monastery. So we said we need to reach out to the people and go across the southwest and see where our sanghas live and how the conditions are there and how they can maintain and nourish their practice and their sanghahood. So we set out and traveled through 10 states in 6 weeks and had retreats and sangha evenings. And what I saw there was that each sangha, very remote, deep in Wyoming, deep in Idaho, in Montana, in Utah, they are Dharma teachers who are taking on the responsibility of taking care of a sangha. Once they had suffering, once they met the practice, once they had a spark of hope to transform their own suffering and committed their life to the practice and said, I want to go deeper and I want to practice deeply in my daily life and want to go the Bodhisattva path and receive the 14 mindfulness trainings. They became Dharma teachers and caring for a sangha, organizing sangha evenings, organizing retreats, mentoring mentees on the path. Besides having a family, having teen kids, having teen problems, having a job, having a partner, having friends, having obligations, having an ordinary life with a lot of challenges. Sometimes we believe practitioners should be better human beings. And I don't know if we can expect that. I think by practicing, we already do a lot. By vowing to practice and to stop and to look deeply to life and to ourselves and to relationships and people, we already make a huge difference. When we receive the 5 or the 14 or the 250 or the 350 precepts, we make a big difference in the world. So that's another perspective to look at these OI members or these OI Dharma teachers who we see hurt us, who definitely hurt us. Asking ourselves, what does it do with me? You can also see what it is, what I need in this moment. I need a peer-to-peer connection. I need to be heard, to be seen, to matter, to be someone, to be worthy. And then noticing what is important to me, what I'm lacking right now in this relationship is, where does this feeling come from? Do I know this from my childhood? Do I know this in relationship with my parents, teachers, friends? Was I often treated like this? And I thought, now I'm stepping into a realm of spirituality where this is not happening anymore. But it is still very alive in me, and this seed of suffering doesn't need much water to come up again. How can I take care of this? Is this maybe an opportunity to, one and for all, embrace it, rock it, cradle it, look at it deeply and become one and accept it. Accept it as myself. I want to end with 2 quotes I want to offer you. One is from Tay. Tay said, "You cannot love your enemy. It's impossible to love your enemy. But if you begin to understand, to look deeply, to investigate into that person, into this person's life, you will see that this person is suffering. And seeing the suffering of the other person will water the seed of compassion in you. And with a seed of compassion arising in you, you will understand the suffering of that person. And this person will not be your enemy anymore, because you see where the suffering is coming from. And when it is not an enemy anymore, you can actually love that person. In this case, we can ask, having this insight in mind, we can ask, and the other story, what I told you, that these people, our dear OI members, have families, have jobs, have problems, have challenges, and maybe overwhelming ones too, maybe physical ailments, whatever. Is there anything I can do for you to make your life more easy, more beautiful? Are you okay taking on so many responsibilities in the Sangha? You surely have family, you have other things to care for too. If there's anything we as your Sangha can do to help you take off something off your shoulder, please let us know. We are here for you. That helps. Communicate. Being a Sangha, being one body. The other quote is about forgiveness. I don't know who to thank for, but it's touching me every time. It says, to forgive is to set a prisoner free, and to realize that the prisoner is you. When we are not able to forgive, we hold ourselves in a prison, looking out of the prison, looking out to the other side and blaming the other person who put us there. But it is as easy as forgiving myself for being who I am, accepting myself, and forgiving and understanding the other person that will open the door of that prison and setting us free. So I wish you will be able to put some of these ideas into practice, and I wish you a fruitful practice. Thank you.
Dear community, I recently have been contemplating the concept of impermanence, and it causes me a lot of suffering. And I just want to know ways I can manage or cope with that.
May I ask a question? Why are you contemplating impermanence? So we know the background. Yes.
I unfortunately have lost 2 of my siblings at a really young age, very unexpectedly, and I just have me and my sister left. And so it brings a lot of fear, losing her as well, and the rest of my family. So it's on my mind.
Dear Sangha, dear friend, it's nice that we contemplate impermanence, But I was asking for the background because I want to know why we practice that. Because if we don't need it and we practice it in the wrong way, it can lead to something worse. If somebody already feel depressed and want to commit suicide, and if we contemplate on impermanence, sometimes it's not very helpful. Like in the Buddha's time, when a group of monks who heard about the teaching of impermanence, so they think that life is not worth it. So a few of them hire people to kill them, kill themselves. So it's not helpful in that way. That's why I ask. So we have to practice skillfully. We have to know which practice is suitable for what situation, and we don't just take all the practice and apply when it's not applicable. I have been contemplating impermanence because it's part of the monastery daily routine. We have different guided meditation for sitting. So sometimes, one monastic will read or will guide us with the meditation on impermanence, and in it, Thầy have wrote a very specific practice. I'm the nature to grow old. I cannot escape old age. I'm the nature to be sick. I cannot escape sickness. I am of the nature to die. I cannot escape death. The only belonging that I will bring with me is my actions. So I've been doing that too, but to touch impermanence is quite a different story. I've been contemplating that too, but when I touch impermanence, it is something entirely different. And each one of us have a different experience. Recently, the Sangha allowed me to come back and take care of my dad who had a stroke. He is in his 87. He was 87 years old, and to see him falling very ill, I know that one day that moment will come, impermanence. So I was watering, I was contemplating, and I was meditating on that. And of course, I did that even before that, but to touch that moment, to know that one day, physically, my dad would not be there, it's not easy. So what I did was I tried to touch his good qualities and also his weaknesses while he's still alive. And I actually share this with my dad, even though he might not respond, because when he had a stroke, he couldn't speak much. So I water the seeds, the positive seeds, the positive qualities that he has, and I water those in me. But I know that he is continued in me and my nieces and nephew. So I try to see that in myself, in my nieces and nephew. But when the time comes, it's still difficult. Yeah, when it happened to us, it's very difficult. And at that time, all Thay's wisdom and teachings about impermanence come back right away to me, and I'm very grateful for those teachings. Thầy say to, if our parents are not there, we can practice walking with them, we can practice sitting for them, we can practice eating for them. So I do that in my daily life. And while I'm here at Magnolia Grove too, because My dad has been to all the monastery except Magnolia Grove because he was elder when this was established. So, recently when we do the walking meditation, I say, Daddy, I'm walking for you. And I feel very happy and I feel very whole that I can bring my dad here and practice with me. So if you can see in your daily life, your loved ones, they are in you, and you can continue them, then even though the grief is still there, but we suffer much less. We suffer because I suffer because if I suffer because of my loved one who dies, it is because I see that that person is separate from me and I'm a separate identity. But if I see that I'm one with my loved ones, your sisters, your siblings, then you can feel that you have never been apart. You can say goodbye in this moment, but you will meet each other again one day. Maybe your loved one can manifest in the form of a bird or flower or a tree, and you can see your loved one presence everywhere. That's one concrete practice that I've done recently is to continue my dad, is he loved gardening. So I never garden in the Sangha. Somehow the Sangha always give me the job of working with numbers and in the office, somehow I never get to do gardening, and I love to experience that. But when my dad passed away, that seed just grew, and I began to learn how to garden. I make my own cactus garden, and I plant tomatoes, I plant peas, I plant all kinds of things that I can get a hand on. And I see my dad is growing bigger in me, and the happiness, the peace, it start to grow, and the suffering just lessen. So if you can find ways to practice impermanence in that way, to see that you are a continuation of your loved one, and you can do the thing that he or she used to do, and you say, hello, brother, hello, sister, I know you're there, and I'm very happy. So that's my practice. Thank you.
Dạ, còn một câu hỏi trên.
There's another question written on the paper here. I'm currently work at an environment is quite stressful, where a few people or some people use violent words or languages that kind of socialize with each other. How can I practice so that I can nourish my body and mind in that kind of environment, to be able to supportive of people who use those kind of language. In this case, a violent language. And this person is 26 years old. I think the people who asked the question. Dear community, when we are in an environment where the people around us or in that environment use a kind of language that is not nourishing, it can affect us. So in this question, I think the person who asked the question can also recognize that and try to practice. So we can see that it's not the person in this case not just not nourished by the language, but he or she has the intention to support, how to support the other people in that environment. So it's a good intention, But if our love is not so big, and we at the same time we try to engage in that environment, to help in that environment, maybe one day we will be cranky or not fresh like the other person. So the path of Bodhisattva is to help ourselves first. If we have enough space and have enough compassion, we will find ways to help other people. But if we just have an idea to help, it's just a notion of compassion, then we might not have enough strength to help other people yet, because it's just a notion, an intention to help. If you might not understand yourself clearly yet, then we might not understand the other people clearly yet. So for this young 26 years old person, the first thing that you can do is maybe take care of yourself first, or even change environment, and maybe look inward and practice looking deeply with ourselves first to see the way we act, the way we talk, or even how we behave. If you see other people saying words that are unkind or not lovingly, then at least what we can do is not to speak like them or behave like them. Sometimes we don't have to respond or say something back. What we can do is to return to ourselves and be peaceful with ourselves first, to see if we have frustration or energy of anger come up or not. So that is the key, to recognize what is inside ourselves first, so we can practice to transform before we can react or respond to the outside environment. And if you hear an unkind word, an unloving word, and you'll be able to have compassion in you, then you'll be able to, exert an energy that's more compassion and more loving in ourselves. But if we have energy of anger arising, or even though you don't say it out, people might feel it. So you can know your capacity first. So in Vietnamese saying, so the uneasiest environment to practice is in the temple or environment. So to be monastic is the easiest environment to practice. The second environment, the tough environment, is a tougher environment is in your house, your home. You live in an environment in your family. Usually it's easier, but the toughest one is in the market or in society, where an environment like your work environment too is the toughest environment for us to practice. For in this scope of question, I asked our friend to see where we at. Are we in the monastery, a home, or in the society? What important is how much compassion do you have? If you see that the people around you is not so nourishing, then you can change environment, or you have to have a practice that to protect your compassion or your love toward other people. So that is my answer for you.
dear Thai, dear Sangha. I'm very hesitant to ask this question. I'm afraid I might not ask it skillfully, so be compassionate with me, please. With a Catholic background, and I'm elderly, so I'm old school, dogma was so important, and you followed dogma. You didn't question it. And one of the things that attracts me to this practice is that phrase, not even Buddhas, not even Buddhist doctrine. Now this is where my skill, I don't intend to go wild at all, but I wonder, without you all being personal, can you give some examples of being true to the practice, but not following the Buddhist practice, or however this is skill, however it's said, not even Buddhist dogma, which I respect dearly. Did I ask that the right way? Thank you.
Dear Thai, dear friends, the language Bruce is, I will not be attached to, and that's where the meaning is so important to me. I like the forms of this practice. I was not raised Catholic, but we still had our rituals, and the forms of the practice are like a container that if you freeze ice in an ice cube tray, you may get square or round, and so they support us in shaping our practice. Not being attached to dogma, to me, would mean not thinking I'm right, but recognizing that the Buddhist teachings that I find so precious and meaningful when I use them in my life are just tools, and they're tools that work for me. So the meaning of that mindfulness training for me is about recognizing that I might need a hammer or a screwdriver for the job that I'm doing, but that doesn't mean that when you want to go and dig up the garden, I should give you the screwdriver and say, here you go, this is the right Buddhist tool, and therefore you must use it. But to recognize and respect and honor the teachings that are meaningful and useful in your life, because that's what we're here for. That's what we're doing, is finding what is meaningful in our lives and helps us transform our suffering so that we can, and not run away from it, but so that we can also support others in that way. If I think of a personal example, I'll tell you later.
That I don't know. I'm Catholic. I know that I'm Catholic, and I'm raised Catholic. I had many Franciscans, priests and monks in my family, so you see, I became a successful monk too. Yeah. And they were saying, all my family was saying, why Buddhist? You know, by God. by God's grace, like we have such a beautiful tradition. Why Buddhists, they don't even believe in God. That's what they said. But you know probably, growing up, I'd say with a double belonging, you long for meaning. And you have to pull it out from two sides or even more, that it makes sense to you, to me. So I'm constantly, still now, whatever teaching I'm reading, being a teaching of Jesus, being a teaching of Buddha, I have to let it sink in and settle and harmonize and reconcile it with where I'm coming from and what I'm choosing to live at peace and in harmony with myself, to be honest and coherent, you know, to be one person. What helps is to see, when we see both people, and Tai was emphasizing that the Buddha was no God, but it was a human being. For Jesus, we say it was a human being and the Son of God. I could say the same for Buddha too, you know. So what they have in common is their love for people, their love for human beings, their love for beings. Their love because they have touched something in their hearts that they needed to share and they needed to live. And even it hurts, they want to overcome this. Jesus by turning the other cheek, Buddha by looking deeply and speaking lovingly. Different languages, different forms. When my Catholic family, we had many discussions. When we discussed this, and I said, isn't it beautiful that God, so to use our language, isn't it beautiful that God, before the internet existed, or even newspapers or planes, gave every people around the globe, when we didn't even know about their existence, gave something to believe in, gave something to practice, some ideals, some values that are important, that foster harmony, that foster peace, that make us live together and care for each other, all these values that we hold dear. Isn't that the grace of God that He offered the Asians a way that they understand better, the Native Americans that they can relate to, you know, the Africans, the Europeans, everybody got that, what they will be able to understand. And that's actually what we say in Christianity, is like God will only burden you with these things that you are able to manage, right? And Buddha says, look deeply. It might be painful, but it is a teaching. It will help you to transform, to heal. Now while I'm talking, I have a personal experience. While I was an aspirant, I was really mad at one of my co-aspirants, and I didn't want to talk to him. And now Jesus says, like, turn the other cheek, or, you know, like, be there, love your enemy, love thy enemy, right? And Tai said, if you are angry with someone, give him a gift. So this came to my mind because I was angry for 2-3 days, and I said, I will never talk to this guy again. And then this thought came up from a beloved teacher, from my personal teacher, from my spiritual teacher, to overcome my little humanness, my little angry heart, right, my little ego. I said, no, never. You know, I'm not loving him and I'm not giving him a gift. Until I suffered some more, maybe 2 more days. And then I said, like, you know, it can't hurt that bad, you know? And I have this tea, so it's not even my favorite tea, so why give it a try. So I took that tea, it was still closed, and went to this brother and said, here, I have a gift for you. And he was all like excited. I said, wow. He said, that's so kind, why? And I said, just like that, take it. And he wanted to thank me, but I didn't allow him, you know, I just wanted the act to be done. But then I also softened, and I saw like what this little gesture did. Without me being fully committed to it, he received, because he also felt there was something between us, right? He felt I reach out with a little gesture that was not even apologizing or trying to go through it and solve it, but just here, I acknowledge you there, I love you, you know, I'm gifting you something from me to you. And that changed the relationship, and I was at peace, and our relationship was more at peace, and at least we were able to talk to one another after that, if that counts as a practical example. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Dear Sangha, dear friends, we might have time for one more question. For those who really want to ask a question, and if you leave the session without asking, you will feel you cannot sleep tonight. So maybe we allow space for one question. Yeah. Last question. If not, can you raise your hand if you do? Okay, please.
Dear Sangha, dear community, my question is somewhat related to the last one. I've been thinking about this all morning. I have 2 adult children and 4 grandchildren, and a wonderful, wonderful husband. And I'm here alone, and I so wish that my family would join me in this practice. And I can see in particular how my oldest son, who is 42, is really challenged with life right now. He has a teenager. His 13-year-old, almost 14. And I just saw him a few weeks ago, and he is struggling a great deal with how to be a parent, Salvador. Do you have any suggestions on how I can encourage them? They live somewhat near Deer Park. They live in California, so I can't, and I live in Georgia. We live in Georgia. But I can only do so much in my personal presence to model. I'm not that great a model either. Any ideas on how I can help my adult children without being dogmatic, pushing?
Respected Thai, dear Sangha, dear friend, dear Carol, in my first few years of becoming a nun, I'm so enthusiastic about the practice. So I go home and I make my family practice. I say, okay, for the meal, now we need to eat in silence. And I will read the 5 contemplations. And everyone just like tune off. And then my father, he bring his dish and say, okay, I'll sit over there. Because he doesn't want to eat vegetarian food. So after 1 or 2 times, I stop. And I remember when we come to Thai's hermitage in the monks or nuns, we get to bring food to him and to enjoy a meal with him. And there were some times that Thầy, instead of us, bowing quietly and saying the contemplation silently, Thầy just say, "This is a happy moment." Yeah. And I learned from that. So the next time when I cook for my family, when I stay with them, I say, "Okay, enjoy your presence." And this is a very happy moment. I think to be skillful and not dogmatic about what we learn here and to apply it more practically is better than trying to force other people to follow. So later on when I go home, when I cook the vegetarian meal with love, my family just enjoy with me, and that is mindfulness. You don't have to be all in silence, or we have to read the 5 contemplations, but we can be skillful. But what you share too, your presence, your practice is enough to help your family. And when I go home and I practice deep listening, I hear both sides of the stories from my siblings and my mom, and formerly my dad. I just listen, and then when they need my help, then I share some of what I see, what I feel, what I practice, and they listen. But if I try to force my ideas on my family, that would be difficult. So I think just our own practice will inspire our family to come and practice. And I've seen that happening in many monasteries where our friends come and they came and they bring the practice home to their family in a non-dogmatic way. There was a question earlier about how to practice not being dogmatic in Buddhism. I think even Thầy, he's very flexible and creative. So when we practice walking meditation in Plum Village, sometimes Thầy start to jog mindfully, and everyone just follow him. I don't know if those of you who remember those moments. Or when we are late at the airport, we also do mindful jogging or mindful running because we don't want the door to close. Sometimes we try our best to be there like 1 hour or 2 hours before, but sometimes because of transportation, we get there late, so we have to do it mindfully. So I think that your own practice, your own being will help. And also try to practice deep listening. And our loved one can feel heard and they can share the problem to us. But sometimes our children, they're not ready to share, and that's okay. We wait to the right moment. But in yourself, you still have love. I know that there are parents who have a lot of difficulties with the teens, children, and they find it very hard to communicate. But just being loving, just continue to ask them how they're doing. They will feel that you want to hear their story. So when they're ready, they will open up to you. Thank you. Dear Sangha, dear friends, thank you for asking all the questions, and thank you, the panelists, for responding to the questions with your practice. And we know that there might be still questions that you want to ask. Then we invited you to go ask your Dharma sharing facilitator, so they can answer some more questions to you. But actually, in each of us, we have the spiritual teacher inside. So if you also sit quietly or walk mindfully while you're here, sometimes the teacher in you will also give you that answer. And we thank you for your presence, for your deep listening. We will end with 3 sounds of the bell.